Hi, this is Norman Koshnick here. I'm here to talk to you today about another chapter in the Cricket Summer Diaries about cricket history, not just in Australia this time, but about the world. We've talked about the SCG, MCG and the likes of Adelaide Oval, but let's put into context a very special situation about stadiums. That is the 10 oldest cricket venues in the world, which have had great impact upon cricket throughout the decades, if not centuries. It's a countdown from 1 to 10. We'll go from number 10 first, and that is, in fact, the 10th ground on the list is actually Galle International Stadium in Sri Lanka. Many of you would not have expected that to be the case, but yes, Sri Lankan cricket history goes back a significant amount of time. And even Don Bradman visited Sri Lanka at certain stages and played on Pisara Oval there in Colombo. But the Galle International Stadium was actually in place since 1876. The Galle International Stadium was actually built in 1876 and had a long, rich history of cricket. In particular, over the last 40 odd years, it's hosted international cricket at the highest level. Picturesque, a magnificent ground. 10th stadium is in fact the Galle International Stadium. Rajapaksa, the president, has actually had his name placed on that stadium as well. Coming in ninth is back in Australia, where we've visited during this particular series, Adelaide Oval. That was actually built in 1871, and another picturesque ground with magnificent cathedrals, a lovely German feel to the town. It has a certain amount of history that I think anyone would appreciate greatly. The 8th stadium is in fact the Basin Reserve in Wellington. A beautiful stadium surrounded by a roundabout, has magnificent ambience and a magnificent theatre for cricket. One of the most picturesque grounds in New Zealand, although there are plenty of others. That was actually built in 1868. Then coming in at number 7 is Eden Gardens. Yes, Eden Gardens in India, in Kolkata, is ranked as the 7th oldest international cricket ground in the world, and was actually built in 1864, a significant period of time prior to India gaining its independence. Obviously an English colony at certain stages, and a magnificent ground we know was one of the biggest stadiums in the world amongst the MCG and the Gujarat Stadium. Eden Gardens, by a long shot, is a magnificent stadium. Having been built in 1864, has seen a lot of history from the likes of Ganguly, Gavaskar, Tendulkar, Azharuddin, Laxman, Dravid, all have played on that ground, all have had significant influence on that particular ground. Coming in at number 6, we're now in England. England have got quite a few of the top 10. England is actually Old Trafford Cricket Ground, which was opened and built in 1857. The Old Trafford Cricket Ground, of course, is in Manchester in England, in northern England, a significant location for cricket. Certainly magnificent amphitheatre, a lot of great bowling performances there, especially from the likes of James Anderson. And India haven't fared that badly there either. Coming in at 5 is a ground that we've actually certainly taken some note of, the Melbourne Cricket Ground. The Melbourne Cricket Ground being the MCG, better known as the G. Of course, that's held everything from Olympic Games in 1956 right through to 2 World Cups in 92 and 2015, and a series of important games, especially now with the Boxing Day traditions, which is happening in Australia as we speak. Coming in 4th, probably my favourite for a lot of reasons, is the Sydney Cricket Ground, the SCG, which was actually built firstly in 1848 and hosted numerous cricket matches. In fact, a lot of Empire games, there were Commonwealth games in MCG. There are also a number of significant results with the Sydney Cricket Ground from sports such as cricket, obviously, AFL, rugby league, rugby, soccer. There's been a number of sports played on that ground. But the SCG is particularly impressive to me. Its original members stand and ladies stand are intact, have not changed, are exactly the way they've always been. You can go into the main dressing room of the local team and actually see the table that Bradman spent time on, the glass doors that he would have walked out of. The visitors' dressing room, of course, has the famous 2 doors where the professionals and the amateurs would come out together to join together and be in the one team, only on the field, and would then leave and return to those 2 doors and be separated until the next game. Then, of course, we come to a ground called the Oval, and that was actually built in 1845. Now, the Oval, There's also in London, a Surrey home ground, a significant set of stands surrounded by incredible waterworks stand in the far distance. Quite an amazing venue. The Oval in England, certainly a great stature. That comes in at number 3, having been built in 1845. Then we come to the first two, and of course the likes of England clearly are the mainstay of cricket. Of course, coming in at number 2 is Trent Bridge ground in Nottinghamshire, having been built in 1838. That ground in Nottinghamshire again is renowned for its cricket. Amazing test venue, incredible bowling efforts, that's incredible swing on that pitch. In fact, is known for its bowling. But some of the best batsmen in the world have certainly done very well on that ground as well, including the likes of Donald Bradman. Coming in at number 1, and this particular ground is probably the favourite of all. It is the true home of cricket. That is the Lord's Cricket Ground. It's certainly a ground of great stature. You can walk around the venue, completely around there. You look at the members of great colours of the orange and yellow, the bacon and egg colour as they call it. The Lord's Cricket Ground, the Marylebone Cricket Club, the birthplace of cricket, you could argue. The Hamilton's Cricket Club, which is a distance away, was where the first set of laws were put together. But in fact, Lord's in 1814 was built, and it's been the home of cricket ever since. Has been a place of many a World Cup and many amazing Ashes series between Australia and England, and many test matches between Australia and India. Of course, those that score centuries and take 5 wickets on that ground adorn the walls inside Lord's, and it's particularly prestigious to be able to have scored a century or take 5 wickets on that ground. I think all cricketers aspire to actually play at Lord's, score a century or take 5 wickets. I think that's the be-all and end-all grounds. Lord's Cricket Ground, number 1 on the list from 1814. So there we have it, the top 10 cricket grounds from the world in terms of their age, their oldest grounds, but that's not just what they are. They're not just the oldest grounds. They have the most history, the most prestige, from the beginnings of the Ashes, the first Lord's Test, the movement to Australia, to India, to New Zealand, and even to Sri Lanka. Amazing history. The top 10 oldest grounds in the world. This is Norman Kochneck. Please view, like and share the series of history, the Cricket Summer Diaries. We'll go through a number of other aspects of cricket grounds around the world, such as the top 10 oldest grounds of the world. This is Norman Kochneck. Join me next time when we go through another piece of history regarding cricket in the world.